Guys, welcome back. My name is Melissa if you're new here, and for today's video I'm going to take you on a little tour of my moss poles here behind me. For those of you that don't know, I love moss poles and growing plants up on a pole so that they can get those large leaves. My goal is to have huge plants growing up on a moss pole. I just want those big leaves. That is a goal of mine. So that is what I'm going to try and accomplish within the next couple years. I have so many more plants I'm going to be growing up on a moss pole. I'll kind of maybe tell you a few others that I'm looking at doing. I have some in my greenhouse currently rooting that I'm going to be putting on a pole, and I think I'm going to keep some a secret that I don't want to tell or show all my plants I'm going to be putting on a moss pole because I want to keep some on the down low, I think. So yeah, this isn't going to be a care tips video because care tips is going to be different for everyone and every pole and every plant. Everyone's environment is different, and it is not something that you can learn right away. It has taken me a while to learn how to grow a plant up on a moss pole. I'll maybe do like a general care tips video another time, but this is just going to be a little tour of the plants I currently have. So let me show you guys what I have growing up on a pole. So this is an overview of this moss pole corner. I have this extra row that I'm going to be adding more poles on, and I'm going to be rearranging all of these. I do have a grow light bulb up ahead, and I can link my moss pole supplies for you as well. I get everything off Amazon. I may redo a couple of these small ones to metal that haven't really attached yet, just for more stability. I'll link some metal hardware cloth down in the description as well if you're wanting to get started or you want to try putting some of your plants on a moss pole. First up is my Philodendron Mikins. Look at how beautiful. I actually have a tutorial on my channel on how I make my moss poles, and I actually put the same Mikins on this pole in that video. Now I will say that I didn't put this guy on a pole like I originally wanted to. I wished I had started a little bit smaller because you see in the middle some of these vines are smaller. It's because it really didn't start growing until it got established on the pole, and so each of these new leaves that have come out have gotten bigger and bigger. I do have some smaller vines that are starting here on the bottom that took a while to grow, so I'm eventually going to trail these guys back up. I have about 3 vines currently growing and probably 2 smaller ones. He's going to be reaching the top of this pole pretty soon, so I'm not going to be extending this pole anymore. So my plan for this guy is to start training him back down the pole to fill him out a bit more, and I'm hoping I can still encourage some larger leaf growth. But these guys come in this beautiful burnt orange color and they fade into this gorgeous luscious green color. It is so gorgeous. I absolutely love Philodendron Mikins, and I can't wait until this whole pole is covered in this plant. So I'm super excited for this one. It's definitely become one of my favorite plants in my collection. Next up over here, this is my Epiprimium Marble Queen, or as some people know it as a Marble Queen Pothos. This plant has 3 vines, and this is the largest vine that is growing. I did start this guy as a small plant, not from cuttings. It has this taller vine on this side, this middle one that is just now starting to grow, and then he's got a vine on this other side. Now I do believe this one looks more Snow Queenish because of all the white. So that would be beautiful to have a mixture of both on this pole. And so these vines do get pretty thick on a pothos plant. So I think the 3 vines for this one should fill this out nicely, but I will be cutting this pole in half and extending on so I can keep getting bigger leaves. And you can see like aerial roots that have dug into the moss. And my poles are actually kind of dry right now, so I need to water them after this video, but these leaves are already getting so much bigger. I love this plant. This guy grows super fast up a moss pole. As soon as one leaf grows, it already throws out another leaf. And same with this one here. These guys are still hardening. This one is a new one, it just unfurled, but it's going to be even bigger than this one. So, and these guys are pretty large leaves. It's hard to tell like in comparison with my hand, but these leaves are getting pretty large, so I'm really excited to see this one grow some more. All right, this one here is probably almost my second favorite pole besides the Mikin. This is my Monstera Atinensis. It just unfurled this leaf here. It is a pretty large leaf. It covers my It's pretty big. It's bigger than my hand, and it works on a new leaf as soon as one starts to unfurl. So this is a very fast grower as well. It's almost at the top, and since these poles are pretty tall, I'm not going to be extending anymore. So I'm going to try and get this guy onto metal once I chop him in half. So we'll see how it goes. I might have to keep him on plastic if I don't want to damage the roots too much, because they're pretty attached to the pole here, and I'll show you. But it is going to be interesting. I haven't actually cut a pole in half before to extend on top of it. So that's going to be a learning experience for me as well. And this one here has 3 vines. This vine is the oldest, the most mature, because it has the fenestrations there. And this one here is the biggest vine. It has the bigger leaves. And then I do have a smaller vine growing on this side over here as well. And I potted a couple babies down in the bottom of the pot to start growing up, which I don't think that was really necessary because I am going to be chopping this pole. So I do want to continue to get larger leaves. So as soon as he reaches the top, I'm probably going to cut him somewhere right in here. And let me show you the aerial roots on this guy, because you can just see them, how they're digging into the moss there. It's so cool how they just grow right into that moss. So I'm gonna have to be careful when I chop this guy. It's definitely gonna be a learning experience. I hope I don't kill him in that process, or at least I'll have the bottom half to continue growing up. But yes, I just definitely want to get larger and larger leaves. I love this plant. All right, this guy here back in the corner was one of my first moss poles I did. This is just my Harrington Philodendron. He has filled out this pole nicely. I put him on a pole and I didn't really know what I was doing, so he isn't growing as well as I initially wanted him to. And this vine here you see is actually growing a lot better, because this newest leaf is actually bigger, so he's not really growing that well until recently. I extended him not that long ago too, so once this guy reaches the top, I'm just going to wrap him back down to continue filling out the pole. So I'm just going to let him grow the way he is. And yeah, I definitely am happy with what I did when I first started with this guy. This guy here in the back is my Sibu Blue. It is beautiful. This guy I just put on a pole not too long ago, so I think I might switch him to metal before he gets any bigger. I don't think he's really attached in here yet into that moss, so I think I'm going to be redoing this pole. This guy gets beautiful as it grows and climbs. It gets those gorgeous fenestrated leaves, which is my goal for this plant. It is absolutely beautiful. I just want to get those leaves. So it's such a beautiful plant. That color is everything. So I just adore this plant so much. Next up here is my neon pothos. He really hasn't started growing this much. I put him here before winter, and he had some kind of like slime mold in the soil. So I think that was inhibiting his growth. So I repotted him not that long ago, and he's actually starting to grow a little bit since I did that. So he is not attached to this pole at all. So I am going to be completely redoing him and putting him on metal before he attaches. Over here is my Monstera Sulta Picana. And again, I want those gorgeous big fenestrated leaves on this guy. I don't think he's attached yet, so I think I'm going to be switching this pole over to metal as well, because they're just so wobbly. Even with a stake and a heavy ceramic, they're just not that sturdy. Back behind him, this is my Rapidaphora or Rapidaphora Hayeye. This is that one that I got from Lowe's that you see on those wood planks. It is just filling out on top of this moss pole that I made. I kind of made this pole a little bit differently, and I don't really know what my plan is for him. These roots aren't attached to this pole at all. It's just kind of climbing up. It's really just for support. So I might trail this back down on the back side once he reaches the top. I'm not really sure what my plan is with this guy. I probably got this plant when he was like here, and then this small growth, it kind of took a bit of a shock when I repotted and attached him onto this pole. And so then he started growing and growing and getting bigger leaves. And then when I moved, he kind of like stopped a little bit, and then now he's starting to grow some more. So yeah, I don't know. It's a cool shingling plant to have, but I really don't know what my plan is with this plant yet. So I'm not going to be extending him though. And this guy over here is my Syngonium Elbow. This is actually a plant that I snapped accidentally. It had grown all the way up this pole, and I snapped the vine at the bottom, and I had to completely cut this plant back and propagate it. So this is the original vine that is continuing to grow since I cut there, and it's working on new leaf. This guy gives me every other leaf variegation with his genetics. It's very interesting. And this was a propagation here from a different plant that I put in here that I'm going to be attaching as well. And I'm going to put some of my other cuttings on the around this pole to continue filling him up and growing him up. But I think since he's not attached, I'm going to be switching this guy out to metal as well. So I basically have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm going to be redoing and putting on metal. And then I'm going to be chopping this guy and chopping this guy and putting these on metal once I chop them, once they reach the top. And then the Mikins is going to stay on this plastic pole, and I will just continue trailing him back down. So he's just going to have to stay like this. So I don't think there's any way for me to take him off this pole without damaging this plant. So yeah, that is the plan. And let me take you through to my greenhouse, and I'll show you some other plants I plan on putting on a moss pole this year. Look at that forgetting eye leaf, you guys. It is stunning. This new leaf is gorgeous, just beautiful. So I chopped my gloriosum, my Philodendron gloriosum. I chopped my Philodendron splendid as well. He's somewhere in here. And I'm going to be putting my splendid on a moss pole. And I have, that's the other splendid there. Did I say varicosum? I'm going to put this varicosum on a moss pole. And so I have some glorious cuttings and some splendid cuttings rooting back there that I'm going to be putting on a pole as well. I have this Epipremnum Elbow, Panatum Elbow I'm going to be putting on a pole. I have some Camposportuanum I'm going to be putting on a pole. All sorts of plants, and there's some other ones in my collection that I'm going to be putting on a moss pole as well. So as soon as I get enough roots on some of these guys, I'm going to be potting them up and putting them on a pole, and hopefully I'll get a lot more cool growth this year. I hope you guys like this little tour of my moss pole plants, and if you want to know more about care tips, I'll do a separate video on that and kind of my routine with them, because that's way more in depth, and it's not something that you're going to learn right away. If you have any other questions, let me know down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.